terrifying them and eliciting jingoist fanaticism and so on. The means that were used were extensive. For example, there was a good deal of fabrication of atrocities by the Huns, Belgian babies with their arms torn off, all sorts of awful things that you still read in history books. They were all invented by the British propaganda ministries, whose own commitment at the time, as they put it in their secret deliberations, was to control the thought of all the world. But crucially, they wanted to control the thought of the more intelligent members of the community in the United States, who would then disseminate the propaganda that they were concocting and convert the pacifistic country to wartime hysteria. And that worked very well. And it taught a lesson. The lesson that it taught was that state propaganda, when supported by the educated classes, and when no deviation is permitted from it, can have a big effect. It was a lesson learned by Hitler, it's learned by many others, and it has been pursued to this day. One of the groups that learned the lesson, naturally, was the business community. There had already been a public relations industry in the United States. The United States pioneered in the public relations industry. Its commitment was to control the public mind, as its leaders put it. They learned a lot from the successes of the Creel Commission and the successes in creating the Red Scare and its aftermath. And in fact, the public relations industry underwent a huge expansion at that time. It did succeed for some time in creating almost total subordination of the public to business rule through the 1920s. This was extreme, so extreme that congressional committees, the La Follette Committee, began to investigate it as we moved into the 1930s, which is where a lot of our information about it comes from. Now, another group that was impressed by these successes was liberal democratic theorists and leading media figures, like, for example, Walter Lippmann, who was the dean of American journalists, major foreign policy and domestic critic, and also a major theorist of liberal democracy. If you take a look at his collected essays, you'll see that they're subtitled something like a theory of progressive theory of liberal democratic thought, or something like that. Lippmann was involved in these propaganda commissions and recognized their achievements. He argued that what was happening was that there was what he called a revolution in the art of democracy. Namely, it was now possible to manufacture consent. That is, to bring about agreement on the part of the public to things that they didn't want by the new techniques of propaganda. And he thought also that this was a good idea, in fact, necessary. It was necessary because, as he put it, the common interests elude public opinion entirely, and they can only be understood and managed by a specialized class of responsible men who are smart enough to figure things out. So a relatively small elite, the most intelligent men of the community that the Deweyites were talking about, they can understand the common interests, what all of us care about, but these things elude the general public. This is a view that goes way back, hundreds of years. It's also a typical Leninist view. In fact, it has very close resemblance to the Leninist conception that a vanguard of revolutionary intellectuals should take state power, using popular revolutions as the force that brings them to state power, and then drive the stupid masses towards a future that they're too dumb and incompetent to envision for themselves. The liberal democratic theory and Marxism-Leninism are very close in their common ideological assumptions. I think that's one reason why people have found it so easy over the years to shift from one position to another without any particular sense of change. It's just a matter of assessing where power is. Maybe there'll be a popular revolution and that'll put us into state power, or maybe there won't be, in which case we'll just work for the people with real power, the business community, but we'll do the same thing. We'll drive the stupid masses towards a world that they're too dumb to understand for themselves. Well, Lippmann backed this up by a pretty elaborated theory of